This organization is ran by people who identify as Israeli first. They donate to AIPAC, the ADL, not to American Mutual Aid. They don't donate to increase the quality of American infrastructure. They're not here to rid the corruption of the American state. No, in fact, they support and endorse the most corrupt politicians in our country. They endorse AIPAC mailing in the elections. They smear any politician who wants to be free of Israel's grasp as anti-Semitic. They are one of the greatest enemies of the American people. I find it absolutely crazy that there are people on the left that goes along with this. That they see these Zio fascists attempting to scale back our free speech rights, and then they playing footsie with them. They are legitimizing this tactic used to dehumanize Arabs and Palestinians and elevate the feelings of Jewish people above all. Like, we have Palestinians who had their entire family killed in Gaza. I know countless Palestinians. I know Palestinians who've been on this show, who follow me. I know Palestinians who I met at KC Palestine Action. They lost multiple family members. I heard someone speak at a Palestine rally at Kansas City explaining how they lost around 20 plus family members. So these Palestinians who live in the United States, they watch our government slaughter their entire family. And they're not even allowed to mourn them. They're not even allowed to mourn their own family without being called terrorist sympathizers. Oh, you siding with Hamas? What are you, anti-Semitic? So not only are these people witnessing their family being slaughtered, they face financial retaliation. They had their professional lives destroyed. You have UK doctors who are having their entire lives destroyed because the Zionist lobby is going after them. And what is their crime? Fighting and mourning for their people? And despite this unbelievable amount of aggression against Arabs, against Muslims that I've seen my entire life, you want to know what the United States left is doing? They're centering Jewish fucking feelings right now. We can't even talk about the crimes that Israel is committing, the crimes that the Jewish community is rallying behind, without some anti-Zionist Jew explaining how their feelings are hurt. Oh my God, I'm seeing the Star of David being bloody with the body of Arabs. It makes me feel bad in this time while I'm seeing Palestinian children being murdered. You want to know who we're centering? The feelings of the collective community that is supporting Israel. And a lot of these anti-Zionist Jews, they gaslight us into thinking that there's some sort of disagreement. Congratulations, there are 50 of you. There's 2 organizations. I covered it on the show, and you can look this up. This is verifiable facts. 99.2% of Jewish synagogues support the apartheid state of Israel, and they retaliate against everyone who don't fall in line. There are Jewish rabbis who was retaliated by their own community, who was sanctioned by their own community because they stood with Palestinians. And then they turn around and they want to do PR for this community that's clearly toxic because they're focusing and centering and they are targeting anti-Zionist Jews as well. My anger with what I am seeing in the community is also because how they are treating you guys. And then as we're seeing this, I am seeing the organized Jewish community, obviously teaming up with Christian Zionists. I'm not taking them out. We all know that Zionism is a system of imperialism that connects with all these religions. But that does not erase the fact. We know that Zionism is more than just Judaism. We know that. But that does not erase the fact that there's an organized effort. This is what I covered in my hotspot. Where are the synagogues? Where are the Jewish organizations that are speaking out against these Jewish educators that is waging a war against the teachers union? Every single union that came out strongly in support of the Palestinian people, we've seen the collective Jewish community wage war against them. Are we allowed to say that? Can you imagine if this was Islam, if there was Muslims in the United States, in the West, that was collectively supporting Western-funded terrorism? Like, imagine if you had teachers' organizations that was condemning Al-Qaeda, and then you had Arab and Muslim teachers publicly speak out against the union and quit. Like, do you guys understand? There's almost no identical situation to how crazy things I've gotten because of the anti-Semitism host, because of the Jewish supremacy. The idea that we can't even point these things out. You have edgy leftists, you have right-wingers, you have Republicans who they burn the Quran. Famous right-wing social media influencers, they burn the Quran. You have edgy leftists like me when I was growing up who used to bash Christianity, and rightfully so in a lot of situations. But then the second you point out, like, hey man, why is the institutional Judaism, why institutional Jews at the highest level, why are they supporting the genocide of our time? You are not allowed to ask that question. New York City Jewish educators say they are leaving the teacher union due to anti-Semitism. What are we doing? Well, I'll start off by saying, good riddance. How cooked is New York education system? How cooked is Western education systems? The fact that we even have Zionists in our midst, in our education, teaching students. Like, these people shouldn't even be allowed to be around children. They support the murdering of children. They support the bombing of hospitals, the bombing of universities. These people should be expelled for the profession, as long as I'm concerned. Meanwhile, you know what they're doing? You want to know what the collective Jewish community is doing? They're making these people out to be the victims, because the teacher union, and we have been covering this story ongoing for the last few weeks now, for maybe last 2-3 months. No one on the left has been covering this anti-Semitism hoax the way I've been covering it, because they're afraid of Jewish supremacy. They want to be friends with these anti-Zionist Jews who get upset whenever you criticize the Jewish community. They're not set out hate. You guys heard me. I bashed the black church. I bashed the white America. This has nothing to do with hatred. I am telling you guys the situation that we are in right now, and the reason why they're able to get away with this, because people are too afraid to point out the enemy, to point out the people who are cracking down on our free speech, the people who are cracking down and waging war against unions. You have people on the left that are afraid to call this out. Bernie Sanders not saying anything. Zoran Mamdani not saying anything. AOC not saying anything. When you have institutionalized crackdown and waging war against unions by Jewish educators and synagogues and Jewish leaders, because I've been covering. Look, if you don't know what I'm talking about, because I do got to remember, you never know when you get new viewers. So for people who haven't been with us for the last few weeks, let me quickly sum up why every single one of these Jewish educators are batshit crazy, and they shouldn't be anywhere near a school, let alone an accredited educator that was a part of a teacher union. Western society is cooked. So if you don't remember, around June 19th, a few weeks ago, 2 months ago, I was reporting how the largest teachers union, the rank and file, voted to ban the ADL. Why did they vote to ban the ADL? Because the ADL is a pro-genocide propaganda think tank. The ADL was started to protect a Jewish rapist. The ADL is just one part of this pyramid, this complete scheme of anti-Semitism that completely brainwashed people in the West, where they claim that Jewish people who commit crimes and face the consequences of their crimes, whenever that happens, that's an act of anti-Semitism. They write these bullshit reports where they say there's a rise of anti-Semitism because people are protesting against Israel. They directly define anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. They don't even pretend to make the difference. Have you guys ever heard this crazy fascist? I know if you are part of the RBN community, we have roasted this guy many times before. But if you're new here, the guy below us is a fascist who literally admitted that he's an Israeli first before he quickly corrected himself. This organization is ran by people who identify as Israeli first. They donate to AIPAC, the ADL, not to American Mutual Aid. They don't donate to increase the quality of American infrastructure. They're not here to rid the corruption of the American state. No, in fact, they support and endorse the most corrupt politicians in our country. They endorse AIPAC mailing in the elections. They smear any politician who wants to be free of Israel's grasp as anti-Semitic. They are one of the greatest enemies of the American people. And that's putting it lightly. No one who is intellectually honest would ever use the ADL as any sort of source worth a fucking damn. That's why you've seen Zionists call Wikipedia anti-Semitic, because Wikipedia doesn't consider ADL a legitimate source. That's one of the many reasons you see Zionists melt down at Wikipedia, or essentially anyone who says any kind of facts. Because we know that anti-Semitism has absolutely nothing to do with hatred of Semitic people. Who Zionists, they hate Semitic people like Palestinians more than anyone else. This is why the left is so lost, going along with this nonsense, looking at white Europeans and saying that they're victims of anti-Semitism. Fuck the U.S. left. Zohran Mamdani going along with this bullshit. Bernie Sanders makes it his entire fucking thing. AOC signed on to the ADL, AIPAC pledge to fight against anti-Semitism. Fuck the United States left. That's why we should be cheering the rise of multipolarity, the rise of China, where they don't worship these fucking Jewish supremacists. So the teacher union, rightfully so, the rank and file, going back to the story, voted to ban the ADL. And in response, let me show this receipt. In response, you had over 400 Jewish groups. You guys see how the Zionist controlled media started immediately attacking labor unions? Like during this time where teacher unions were like, hey man, we can't support any source that support Israeli genocide. Then all of a sudden, you get all these headlines saying how labor unions feed into anti-Semitism. Look, anti-Semitism's newest safe space, teachers unions. This is the kind of stuff that is written in Western fucking media as fact. Teachers are the profession that liberals usually pretend is above the fray. Like, usually whenever you see right-wingers, they have dumb critiques of teachers and education, but then you will see liberals, they will say, how dare you go after the teachers? How can anyone not support our teachers? Our teachers are the people who guide our children. You guys heard the liberal virtue signaling bullshit they say about teachers, but the second that the teachers start criticizing Israel, all that shit go out the window. You got liberal media all over the place. These Zionist controlled outlets saying that teachers unions are littered with anti-Semitism. Here's another one. Teachers unions accused of fostering environment for anti-Semitism to grow. the fuck is going on, bro? What the and then people are afraid to call this out. People say, oh, Nick is the one, he one of those anti-Semite leftists because he noticed this bullshit. You got these Zionist Jews who run the media, then they turn around on a dime, on the direction of the ADL, on the direction of Israel, and then smeared an entire union for being anti-Semitic. We're not using a genocidal organization as a reputable source. And if you read the article, and I broke this down before, and I explained this in the tweet, despite the fact that the rank and file overwhelmingly voted to ban the ADL, you had the teacher union that then rejected the will of the rank and file. You know why? Because they would put pressure by over 400 Jewish groups who then, whatever fucking magic Jew powers they have or whatever, convinced the union leadership to throw democracy out and cancel the resolution that their own members voted for. Because one of the leaders of the teacher union is a diehard Zionist who puts Israel before our own children. You're not allowed to talk about this on the left for some reason, or being we're the only people covering this damn story. Everyone else, they say, oh my God, this is what's going on with the Palestinians. It's so sad. But we also have the problem of anti-Semitism that we must address. Fuck you. Every single person that is saying that, every single person that is legitimizing that, you are giving the AOK to these kind of stories. Every single time you cover that bullshit, you're not covering this. Not only are they cracking down on our free speech, they're going after the unions. And as they're going after unions, the left who pretends they care about unions are completely silent because they're afraid of being called anti-Semitic too. All right, let's see. I want to get to the Russia-China story too, but man, this story burns me up, bro. This story burns me the fuck up. This is why I was willing to get canceled. I'm like, bro, I know a lot of people not gonna like my takes on this kind of stuff, but I really don't give a fuck because this level of Jewish supremacy and brainwashing in our culture has gotten completely absurd. Here's the president of the United States. This is what he said today. He had an interview with the Daily Caller, and this is going viral. This is not the first time that Trump said something like this. The funniest thing, like we covered Trump saying stuff like this, where he laments the decline in power of the Jewish lobby. He said Israel had the strongest lobby in Congress of anything, or of any company or corporation or state that I had ever seen. Israel was the strongest. Today, it doesn't have that strong of a lobby. It's amazing. What? Like our friends at DDG say, bro, what? People watch RB for a long time. We've seen Trump say this stuff. This is one of the Trumpisms. There are a lot of Trumpisms he say. And one thing that I think why I don't have a lot of patience for people like Dave Smith. The people like, oh, I can't believe I told people to vote for Trump. I didn't know he was a Zionist. He says stuff like this all the time. We're like, man, I can't believe the Israeli lobby isn't as strong as it used to be. You guys see how there's a union between white Christian America? Because Trump is the god of white Christians, apparently. He's the god of white America. They fucking love him. One of the greatest political figures in terms of their sport. In terms of their sport of electoral politics, the fact that Donald Trump came out of nowhere and took over one party, he's the king of white boys. At RB, we declared Trump is the king of white boys. He is. White people love him. He was ordained by evangelical Christians. You have people like Dave Smith, even people who like Jake Shields. Many people who like, man, I voted for Trump. Yeah, I was wrong, man. My bad. Yeah, I was wrong. I told the working class that Donald Trump was anti-war. completely misled the poor white working class. Oops, my bad. Even those people were tricked. People who was considered smart, like Dave Smith, was telling his white boy audience that they should support Donald Trump. As Donald Trump, and this completely destroys the argument that Nick Fuentes, Jake Shields, and a lot of the white supremacist, anti-Israel people make, when they pretend that the white community is the victim of Jewry, the victims of Jewish behavior. There has been a coordinated partnership where both these communities acknowledge that imperialism and apartheid, racism and imperialism benefits them. So for a very long time, evangelicals teamed up with these crazy, radical Zionist Jewish people, and they took over the fucking world, especially the West. And then you have people pretend that Trump is anti-war. You have people that pretend that Trump is part of some sort of anti-establishment movement, even though he's connected at the hip with some of the biggest Zionists in the world, like Jared Kushner, who he gave his daughter away to. Trump grandchildren are literally Jewish. Meanwhile, people like Nick Fuentes supported them. All these fucking white supremacist people supported them. And then they pretend that they pretend there's distance between white America and Zionism, when that distance is very new. And there's definitely a lot of friction now. This is the decline of Israel. But this friction is brand new. There's been a cohesive relationship between these motherfuckers for decades. You want to know who did not have that cohesive relationship? Zionists and black radicals. That's why the ADL said that black Americans are the biggest threat to Zionism. That's why the ADL and Zionist organizations were spying on the Black Panthers. That's why black radical organizations stood in solidarity with the Palestinians, as we was called radical terror supporters. As we had a collective union between South Africans and Palestinians, as white boys and Zionists, they was teaming up together and fucking up Arab, fucking up the Middle East, imposing apartheid around the world. And then people like Nick Fuentes, Jake Shields, and a lot of these white supremacists, they try to rewrite the history. And I would love to debate these people. I was talking to Jake Shields about this to his face. Like, you guys have had a union while the left has been fighting against this forever. And now you guys trying to pretend that you guys was the vanguard of fighting against Jewish supremacy this entire time? Get the fuck out of here. This part right here is so ridiculous. There was a time where you couldn't speak bad if you wanted to be a politician. You couldn't speak badly. They talking about Israel. This is Donald Trump. But today you have, AOC plus 3. This man, Donald Trump, is the biggest Fox News watching boomer fraud of all fucking time, bro. So, according to Donald Trump, in his analysis here, he says, but today you have, AOC plus 3. You have all these lunatics. They really changed it. According to Donald Trump, the reason why the American people is turning against Israel is because of AOC in the Iron Dome squad. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is straight up Fox News boomer shit. And Donald Trump, he's always been a Fox News watching boomer. That's why I'm so glad that the Dave Smith, the annoying libertarian, those fucking dipshit libertarians who I was calling out for years. They was gaslighting people about Donald Trump. They was gaslighting the anti-war movement about Donald Trump. And it was annoying the shit out of me. That's why I fucking cussed so many of these people out. And Trump doing his part of the establishment, because obviously I think there's a reason for this. Both sides of the establishment fucking uplift each other. This is Donald Trump cutting a promo for AOC. Like, you know what I mean? They uplift and prop each other up all the time. It's the same in pro wrestling. You guys know my family, we love pro wrestling. You have heels that will get booed on purpose in pro wrestling. They would try to get heat from the audience on purpose in order to make the baby faces look better. It's a concept of pro wrestling. Like Ric Flair, he was famous for it. You know what I mean? Think of the famous heel. They were famous for getting heat from the crowd and using that to transfer to the baby face so the crowd will cheer for them. That's Donald Trump and AOC. And AOC does it for the right-wing chuds to help Donald Trump get over. Like, once you understand the relationship between pro wrestling and American politics, you can't unsee it. Like, us wrestling nerds, we make these kind of comparisons all the time because it's so on point. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Maxie, they're the baby faces now. They're the ones who are allowed to speak out against the Israeli genocide. So I want to show this clip, and I want to move on. I want to get to our Trump-Russia. I want to get to the Russia story. The historic alliance between Modi, Xi Jinping, Putin, which is a direct failure of United States leadership. But before I do that, I'm going to show you guys, this is the guy who is currently leading the fucking polls. You guys know that fucking Gavin Newsom is the leading candidate. There's a poll that just came out earlier where he's like 25, 30%. And the next election, the 2028 election, is essentially going to be a competition between both parties on who can crack down on free speech the most on behalf of Israel. This is how cooked our election is going to be. Both parties complaining that Americans have too much free speech rights.
What? The guy who had dinner with Nick Fuentes telling us about anti-Semitism? Are you kidding me? The guy who countenanced anti-Semitism in both his last campaigns? I can give you chapter and verse on that. Lecturing us? You saw, you just saw California came out leading the nation in terms of our response to anti-Semitism. It's a point.
California, as Gavin Newsom said, was leading the way in combating anti-Semitism. And now, according to Gavin Newsom, Donald Trump's the anti-Semite. You got to see the fucking cursed political discourse that we have to suffer through in the United States. According to Republicans, Democrats is a party full of young Hamasis, radical left, terrorism supporters. And then according to liberal boomers, no, it's actually Donald Trump. They're the real anti-Semites. No, you're anti-Semite. No, you're anti-Semite. I'm the blue team. I promise we're not anti-Semitic. No, we're the red team. We're not anti-Semitic. We don't have a Jewish supremacy problem. And this is like the greatest example of how Jewish supremacy is centered in our politics. And this is the guy who's leading the party, the Democratic Party, in polling right now. This is his line of attack he's using against Trump. President Newsom says President Donald Trump is the leading socialist of our time. Oh, Jesus Christ. We were like cursed in this country.
The hostility to him is quite high, correct?
Yeah, of course, because of some of his, well, for obvious reasons, some of his views. And there's a lot of anxiety around those views. And they could be on issues related to domestic policy as it relates to, socializing, grocery stores, et cetera. It could be on national policy.
Trump Intel, the comparison is very obvious that you just made.
Yeah, no,
correct.
And we need to make that point over and over and over. I mean, I remember, wasn't Jeff Bezos out there yelling and screaming that Biden doesn't understand, capitalism? I mean, this guy is completely perverted capitalism, Donald Trump. It's crony capitalism. It's whatever, you pay him off, give him a phone call. I mean, these illegal tariffs, which we're also in court on, all the things that are happening in this country, it's just perverse that they could be shaping the Democratic Party in the context of the socialist brand, when in fact, this guy is the leading nationalist and socialist of our time, Donald Trump.
Bro, fucking kill me now. Jesus Christ. This is the messaging that's coming from the Democratic Party. That Donald Trump is the leading socialist. Donald Trump is actually anti-Semitic. We're going to defend the CIA. Donald Trump is actually the one who wanted to fund the police. Both parties are completely cooked. And if you ran as a Democrat, if you're progressive, it's time for you to admit that your strategy has completely failed. Your strategy to shift the Democratic Party to the left is an undeniable failure, because now the Democratic Party is just straight up a Reaganite, Liz Cheney party now. Because we have professional genocide scholars, and this is what we were saying forever since the Biden administration. I'm going to quickly cover this before I get to the main story. Israel committing genocide in Gaza, world's top scholar on crime say. And thank God that Kamala Harris lost, because now liberals are willing to say it's a genocide. Last year, you had liberals that say, hey, they was the one who was like, they was lawyering for Israel genocide in order to defend Joe Biden. So they will be the ones to say, don't you know, technically it's not a genocide? Technically, legally speaking, it's not a genocide. There are still Palestinians that are alive. That was the kind of shit you would hear from liberals last year. Now that Donald Trump is in charge, now they're allowed to call it a genocide. Because I don't know what made these people top scholars, but 2 years, it took y'all 2 years to make these kind of statements, which was obvious. So their plan was, we're gonna wait until they kill all of the Palestinians. We want to make sure and wait until it's 100% apparent before we label it as a genocide. You had the progressive left who still won't call it a genocide to this day. And scumbags like Bernie Sanders, big shout out to the squirrel for always highlighting this video. He still refuses to call it a genocide to this day. He refused to call it a genocide because he didn't want to directly implicate Jim Crow Joe. Now you have motherfuckers like Jake Sullivan who coming out and writing op-eds saying how we need to have an arms embargo on Israel. These people make me sick. The people who supported the genocide under Joe Biden is now saying, oh my God, what Donald Trump is doing is awful. He is enabling Netanyahu. Look, this is the kind of shit I'm talking about. I'm going to get to the Bernie clip. But look at this shit. All these people need to hang. They're trying to rehabilitate their image now. Former top Biden aide says he now backs withholding weapons from Israel. What the fuck? Hey, Jake, just following orders is not a valid legal excuse when you are being charged with genocide, which doesn't have a statute of limitation, by the way. So this is what Bernie Sanders was saying before.
A little bit queasy, what genocide? You got to be careful about the word.
It is a
He said, I feel queasy, and we got to be careful about using that word, the word of genocide. And then he quickly turned around and said that Putin is a war criminal committing genocide. Full of shit. This is the same Bernie Sanders that says, I don't think we should sanction Israel. I don't think we should boycott Israel. But then the second that the Ukraine war popped out with Russia invaded, he called for sanctions and boycotts of Russia. He's a Zionist stooge.
Get a little bit queasy, what genocide? You got to be careful about the word.
It is a genocide.
What's your definition of genocide?
Bernie, you have funded Zionism yourself. You have funded the Israeli settler state. Here you are pretending you aren't. It is disgusting. Liar, liar, genocide denier. Liar, liar, genocide denier. It's disgusting.
Meanwhile, people like Hassan Piker will have Bernie Sanders on, and he will never question Bernie about this. The progressive media that people still think are their friends to this day, they have access to Bernie Sanders, and they don't have the fourth, the eighth, the 1/16th of the courage of this activist have. The person who called out Bernie Sanders, people like Hassan Piker, has Bernie Sanders on, calls him his fucking daddy. and will never grill him on these kind of things. The same way these people would never grill Ro Khanna on their support of the NATO proxy war.